that's where we get that concept, like that idea from. So back then, everybody was screaming, that's liberation theology. They're talking about Jesus didn't come to set the captives free from something, in this life. He came to set them free from, their sin. And you see what I mean? So back then, that was the narrative. I would say even in our circles I can't say fanatic thought that way, but I felt like in our culture, in our circles at the time, that was the thing. That was kind of like the emphasis. We would kind of push one to the background and say, but the more important thing is sin and salvation. You see what I mean? The more important thing is the justice that Jesus served on the cross, and so back then for me, I was more in that space, not 100% though, not 100%. And it wasn't until I started moving in different spaces, started running alongside of people who thought a little different, running alongside of people like Pastor Jamal Bryant, which again, good, bad, or indifferent, say what you want. There are things that I could glean from him. And this is one of those things. Understanding, no, it's not just vertical, it's horizontal. That the whole of Christianity speaks into both realms, not just one or the other. As Flame talks a lot about the left hand realm, right hand realm of the kingdom, which is a Martin Luther concept. That God is equally as preoccupied with both. We didn't have that category. I didn't have that category back then. That wasn't the culture. So it was over time that I evolved into this place, in this space where I'm beginning to now, or I began to understand the importance of how my faith fits into both spaces, and how God, the heart of God beats for both realms. So, yeah.
That's good. Thank you, man. Thank you. And the growth is super appreciated.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Limoblaze. So you talked to us before about your hope to be a positive influence on your community, whether it's with your talents or the knowledge that you can bring to your community. So can you maybe talk about some of your experiences as a person growing up in these urban areas of Nigeria, and how did they influence the stage that you're in your career, and the message that you hope to bring to the next generation?
Oh, yeah. I mean, a couple of days back, I and T.R.U.T.H were having this conversation, and I was just sharing how Christian hip-hop played like a vital role in my life, because where I grew up in Nigeria, the scenery is pretty different from anything you guys are familiar with. But in summary, long story short, most of the boys, the kids that I grew up with, most of them grew into drugs. Most of them grew into cultism. A lot of them dead now as a result of this. But Christian hip-hop played a very vital role for me, because I encountered it at a young age, and it really just kept me indoors. It really just kept me indoors, rapping over the T.R.U.T lines and the craze lines. And yeah, all of that was really important for me, because, man, growing up in Nigeria, I don't want to sound, it's not easy, man. It's not easy. It affects the way you see things, you process a lot of information. I don't even know what angle to attack this from. But yeah, the culture, everything has an influence on my music. I am one of the persons who was exposed to Western culture at an early age too. So my music and where I'm at right now, my message and everything I'm doing, it's a blend. It's a rich blend of all of the African culture that I grew with and all of the Western culture I was exposed to at a very young age. So yeah, that's where I'm at, man.
Thank you. And you can definitely tell just in talking to you and hearing your music, that you sort of were raised on that Western culture, and you have a little bit of that edge to you.
Yeah.
Truth.
Uh-oh.
Yo, so you came up in a different time where artists were usually a part of a local church were very involved in discipleship and community, and basically had to be proven to be theologically sound before grabbing the microphone and dropping bars. Today, times have changed. Anybody with Fruity Loops and a microphone has the freedom to just put out music at will. Many pointing to the aforementioned standards of the CHH landscape in the early 2000s to the middle of the decade to be a major contributor to the quote unquote toxic CHH fans and environment of today. What are your thoughts on the subject?
Yeah, it's interesting because that's, because it's extremism, right? So there's golden ageism, which is where we can look at what we kind of think to be the golden age of a thing, whether it's the golden age of America, right? Or the golden age of CHH, or the golden age of hip hop in general. And we can kind of idealize that particular era, right? But if you really look back, if you take a good look at what was going on at that time, the time of golden ageism, or rather the time of the golden age, if it might not be as bad as where things are in the present, but it's totally not what we have created it to be, right? Which is kind of, we create in our mind, we edit all the bad stuff out, and then we, kind of whitewash it. So I think that when it comes to CHH, there's some people who see that era, that cross movement era, where people thought that, it was maybe a little more rigid or accountability or whatever. Some people who see that as the golden age. There was bars, there was lyrics, just like we see Christian hip hop. Just like we see mainstream hip hop. What happened to the days when it was bars and it was right? But I think that but I'm saying that's to say that there's two extremes. There's the golden ageism, and then there's this other thing that we're hearing or that we're seeing, which is that was the worst era ever. So the pendulum swings far right and far left, right? That's just how, unfortunately, humans move. Like, we have a very difficult time finding the middle, which is why I wrote The Color Purple, right? We have a very difficult, in our country, either Democratic or you're Republican. You're either a mask wearer or you're not. We just as human beings have a hard time dealing with nuances. So we find ourselves going from one extreme to the other. Because the truth of the matter is this: that era was both. It was the golden age in one sense, and that had its problems. You see what I mean? Like, in other words, there was so much good. And this is the part that I don't like. I don't like when you throw the baby out with the bathwater. When you say, when you sum up the total, but you sum up the whole, you make the sum of the whole from the parts. You take the parts and make it the sum total of the whole. That's what I'm trying to say. I think that right there is where things get dangerous, gets lopsided, and it becomes revisionist history, right? Because the truth of the matter is that era was a beautiful era, but we had our problems. On one hand, we set the bar. Like, cross movement set the bar, yo. Like, they were the first to be on BET numerous times. They were the first people selling 190,000 copies first 2 weeks. That was unheard of for Christian hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, they were the first to make it a movement. We are standing on their shoulders. I don't care who it is. Lecrae, me, Flame, and everybody following. Every subsequent artist is standing on the shoulders of what Cross Movement did. Was there some rigidity there? Absolutely. Even though I wasn't part of the Cross Movement, I was part of that culture that that set up certain rules and impose certain standards that should not have been. You see what I mean? So I agree with the new school in that sense. There was some rigidity there. Maybe there was some legalism there. Maybe there was some, imposed some standards that were imposed that were really more just our personal convictions. Therefore, they should not have been. Absolutely. But does that in any way minimize the value of what the cross movement and others of that era brought to the table? Absolutely not. And I think that's an important tension for us to live in, because there's, to me, the new school, I get it, be free, flow, do art, etc. But the problem with the new school is they're doing all of this without a firm foundation. You see, Dr. Ravi Zacharias he went to I forget what country that he was in, but he was in the country and he was taken to see this architectural structure that was absolutely amazing. He walked into the room and all of the stairs were suspended. Like they were like circular and they were suspended. And everything that you would think is just supposed to be in its rightful place was actually there, but it was either suspended or it was in a weird shape, And Robbie was talking to the people, fascinated. He was like, "This is absolutely fascinating." He said, "What made the architect do this?" And the person that was with Robbie said, "Well, they essentially wanted to create a world where that was kind of it's not verbatim, but a world where there was no foundation." He said, I wondered if he could apply that same mindset, though, to the groundwork that was laid. You see, in other words, all the aesthetics, like all the cosmetic stuff, you can do that with. You can suspend the stairs. You can take stuff that normally you assume is supposed to look this way or be this way, and you can create your own version of it, but you can't do that with the foundation. The foundation has to be the same. Like, you can't get cute with the foundation. You can only get cute with the cosmetics. You see? And what I'm saying is that I think that what Cross Movement did, what I did, and many others, what we established was a firm foundation. And the only thing I would say is, listen, do your suspended stairs. Just don't forsake the foundation. You see what I'm saying? Good. Like, good. Do your art as weird as you want to be, as creative as you want to be, just go as far as you possibly can within the boundaries of, what is good and what is true. Just don't forsake all of what the foundation has established.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Preaching, bro. You bring that, throw some offering on the table,
good,
bro.
Yeah.
Luke, before you ask your question, Luke, let me just kick something to Limo real quick. Like, do you guys? I know the Nigerian Christian hip hop scene is a lot smaller, but do you guys kind of have some of those issues or those problems too? Like, is there the I'm a Christian rapper versus I'm a rapper who's Christian debate, or some of the things that even Truth was talking about? Like, you just have artists who's like, I want to make art, but maybe their foundation is not strong. Like, do you guys have some of those issues too?
In all honesty, yeah, we've seen some of those issues pop up. But the truth about it is that those issues popped up because some of these guys were just copying what they saw the American counterparts doing. So it was never an original thought. It was never an original idea. It was, so-and-so person in American CHH is doing this. Oh yeah, this sounds like a cool idea. They probably don't even know what the full thought behind that person's action was, but it just sounded cool. And because I'm a fan of that person, you're just wrong with it. Yeah, so we've had like a few of that pop up, but over time I think everybody has seen it's dead on arrival down here. It is dead on arrival down because CHH in American space is more it's bigger, like you said, it's more successful. Right here, we're still struggling to have a structure down here. I don't think it's a fight you want to have at this point. So, a lot of cats tried it, but no one is staying on it.
As far as production goes, I wanted to talk about production a little bit. This is probably